Nurses. When did you realize your department was destroying patients financially? I was reviewing discharge paperwork when Mrs. Chen grabbed my scrubs with both hands. Please, she sobbed, her grip surprisingly strong for someone post-op. The bill says I had spinal fusion. I only had steroid injections. My insurance is saying $47,000. I checked the medical record on my tablet. The procedure notes clearly said epidural steroid injection, but the billing code showed lumbar fusion with instrumentation. Her husband arrived with printed insurance denial letters. His hands were shaking. We'll lose the house. We just refinanced for her mother's dementia care. I promised to look into it. I thought it was a clerical error. Back at the nurse's station, I pulled billing records for last month's ICU patients. What I found made my stomach drop. Mr. Johnson's diagnostic colonoscopy was billed as colonoscopy with removal of multiple tumors. Sarah Miller's 4th antibiotics were coded as complex chemotherapy administration. Tommy, the Vietnam vet who came in for a wound dressing change, got charged for complex wound reconstruction. 7 patients, 7 mistakes, all in 1 month. Dr. Alvin walked by and saw my screen. He stopped cold. Don't. Just don't. Don't what? Whatever you're thinking of doing about those codes. Patricia tried last year. She's working at a clinic in Newark now, making half her salary. I did the math. 8 patients, average overbilling $35,000 each. $280,000 in 1 month. I found Dr. Maverick in his office. He minimized his screen when I walked in, but I glimpsed an Excel spreadsheet with patient names and dollar amounts. Mrs. Chen's bill is wrong, I said. She had a steroid injection, not spinal fusion. These things happen. Insurance companies have whole departments to catch errors, not our job to do their work. But it's fraud. Mrs. Chen might lose her house. Mrs. Chen got excellent care. She should be grateful she's walking. His phone buzzed on the desk. The text preview was visible. Payment due Tuesday. No more extensions. V. Maverick's hand shook as he grabbed the phone. You know what your problem is, Angelica? You think you're some kind of hero. His voice got quiet. Your father died because of a lazy nurse missing symptoms. Don't project your guilt onto this department. I froze. I told him about my father in confidence years ago, during a department Christmas party when we were both drunk and talking about why we chose medicine. If you have concerns, file them with HR. Otherwise, focus on your actual job. That night, my son found me crying over my laptop. I was looking at a photo from last year's department Christmas party. Maverick was giving a toast about integrity in medicine, about how we were the last line of defense for vulnerable patients. Mom, why does your computer have all those patient files open? I looked at him. My 12-year-old son who still believed people who helped others were good, who thought hospitals were where people went to get better, not bankrupt. Because tomorrow, I'm going to find out exactly how many people they've destroyed. He sat next to me and looked at the screen. Is that why Mrs. Chen was crying? The lady from this morning? I nodded. Her bill says $47,000 for something she didn't have? Yes. That's stealing. Yes, it is. So why doesn't someone stop them? I closed the laptop and looked at my son. Someone's going to try. That someone was me, a single mother with 2 kids, a mortgage, and 8 years at this hospital. 8 years of believing we were the good guys. 8 years of telling patients to trust us. I thought about Patricia, working at that clinic in Newark for half pay. I thought about my father, dying because a nurse didn't catch the signs of sepsis. I thought about Mrs. Chen refinancing her house to care for her mother, only to lose it for a procedure she never had. I opened the laptop again and started documenting everything. Every patient, every real procedure, every fraudulent code, every dollar stolen from people who came to us for help. Tomorrow, I'd report it to HR. Tomorrow, I'd do the right thing. I didn't know then that doing the right thing would cost me everything. My job, my reputation, almost my children. But tonight, sitting with my son, I still believed the system would work. That HR would investigate. That Maverick would be stopped. That Mrs. Chen would keep her house. I still believed that hospitals existed to heal people. I was about to learn exactly how wrong I was. 3 days after I documented everything, Margaret Chen from HR finally called me in. I brought 12 patient files with me, printed billing discrepancies for each one, original procedure notes on the left, billing codes on the right. The evidence was undeniable. Margaret took notes on her legal pad. Her pen moved quickly across the page. This is very serious, Angelica. Very serious. I know, that's why I'm here. How long has this been going on? I don't know. I only started looking after Mrs. Chen came to me crying about losing her house. Margaret set down her pen. Mrs. Chen? The one from Monday? Yes, she had a steroid injection. They billed it as spinal fusion. $47,000. And you have proof? I slid the folder across her desk. Her procedure notes, her anesthesia records showing local only, the billing showing general anesthesia and hardware placement. Hardware that doesn't exist. Margaret flipped through the pages. Her face got tighter with each document. Mr. Johnson, Mrs. Rodriguez, Sarah Miller. She read each name slowly. These are all Dr. Maverick's patients? Yes. And you believe Dr. Maverick is personally changing these codes? The billing changes happen 2 to 3 days after procedures, always during his login times. But Jacob from IT says half those times Maverick was in surgery. Margaret's head snapped up. You discussed this with IT? I needed to understand the pattern. Angelica. Her voice changed. Became careful. Professional. I need you to understand something. These are serious allegations. Career-ending allegations. If we investigate and find nothing, you could be sued for defamation. I'm not making this up. The evidence is right there. I believe you believe that. She closed the folder. But there are protocols. Chains of command. I'll need to loop in legal, the chief of staff, the board. How long will that take? These things take time. Weeks, maybe months. Mrs. Chen doesn't have months. She's being foreclosed on next week. Margaret leaned forward. I understand your concern. I really do. But we have to do this right. By the book. She stood up, signaling our meeting was over. In the meantime, don't discuss this with anyone. Not other nurses, not patients, not even your family. We don't want to compromise the investigation. What about the patients being overbilled right now? We'll handle it. She walked me to the door. You did the right thing coming to me. Let us take it from here. I wanted to believe her. I wanted to believe the system would work. That HR existed to protect employees who reported fraud. That they'd stop Maverick before more patients lost their homes. One more thing, Margaret said as I reached the door. Dr. Maverick doesn't know about this report, does he? No. Good. Let's keep it that way. For your protection. I walked out of her office feeling relieved. Finally, someone with power knew. Finally, something would be done. I didn't know Margaret was already texting Maverick before I even reached the elevator. I didn't know that by protocol she meant protecting the hospital. I didn't know I'd just signed my own termination papers. 3 days later, Margaret called me back to her office. This time she wasn't alone. Janet from Revenue Cycle Management sat in the corner chair. A man in an expensive suit stood by the window. Hospital lawyer. Angelica, please sit. Margaret's voice was different, cheerful. We have good news. Janet leaned forward. We found the issue. A coding software glitch. It's been corrected. A glitch? The system was auto-populating higher complexity codes based on keywords in the notes. The lawyer spoke without looking at me. An unfortunate technical error. Margaret slid a folder across the desk. We've already generated corrected bills for the affected patients. I opened it. Mrs. Chen's new bill showed $8,000 instead of $47,000. Mr. Johnson's colonoscopy was properly coded. Sarah Miller's antibiotics were just antibiotics. This is from 3 days ago, I said, looking at the dates. You fixed this in 3 days? Our IT team worked around the clock, Janet said, once we identified the problem. But what about the other patients? What about the last 6 months of bills? Margaret and Janet exchanged glances. We're conducting a voluntary audit, Margaret said carefully. These things take time. We need to review thousands of records. Thousands of patients were overcharged. We don't know that yet. The lawyer finally turned to face me. That's what the audit will determine. I flipped through the papers. These corrected bills. Have they been sent to insurance? Have the patients been notified? We're handling it, Janet said. Mrs. Chen will receive a full refund for any overpayment. What about her foreclosure? It's next week. We'll provide documentation for her mortgage company, Margaret said. Everything will be fine. I wanted to believe them, but something felt wrong. The bills were too perfect, too clean, generated too quickly. How did you fix a software glitch that's been happening for months in just 3 days? Janet smiled. It didn't reach her eyes. We have an excellent IT team. Speaking of which, Margaret added, we appreciate your diligence in bringing this to our attention. Your annual review is coming up. This kind of attention to detail doesn't go unnoticed. The lawyer nodded. The hospital values employees who protect our patients' interests. Your dedication will be reflected in your evaluation, Janet said, and your compensation. They were offering me a raise, a bribe wrapped in compliments. So the fraud was just a computer error? I asked. The room went cold. There was no fraud, the lawyer said slowly. There was a technical error that has been corrected. Using words like fraud could be considered defamation, slander. That's a serious legal matter. But patients lost their homes. Mr. Thompson killed himself over medical debt. Mr. Thompson had terminal cancer, Janet said. His situation was complicated. He had pneumonia, treatable pneumonia. Margaret stood up. Angelica, we've resolved the issue you brought to us. The system worked. Patients are being made whole. That's what matters. What about Dr. Maverick? These were all his patients. Dr. Maverick has been informed about the software issue, Margaret said. He's as concerned as we are about accuracy and billing. The lawyer moved toward the door. If there's nothing else? I understood what was happening. They were covering it up, making it disappear, and buying my silence with promises of a good review and a raise. Thank you for your time, I said, standing up. Margaret smiled. Thank you for your discretion, Angelica. We know we can count on you to handle this professionally. Janet added, no need to worry patients with technical details they wouldn't understand. We've got it under control. I walked out knowing 3 things. First, they knew exactly what was happening. Second, they were all in on it. And third, I was now a problem they needed to manage. The glitch story was a lie. The corrected bills were theater. And my raise would be the price of my silence. But Mrs. Chen's house was safe. That had to count for something, didn't it? The next morning, everything changed. I checked my schedule on the staff app. ICU shifts gone, pediatric ward for the next 2 weeks. Temporary staffing need, the note said. The pediatric ward was punishment. Everyone knew it. Understaffed, overwhelming, where they sent nurses they wanted to break. I'd worked ICU for 8 years. Now suddenly I was needed in pediatrics? I walked past the ICU nurses station on my way to pediatrics. Karen and Patricia stopped talking the moment they saw me. Patricia actually turned her back. Karen just stared until I passed. My phone buzzed. Email from HR. Mandatory training, documentation accuracy, Thursday 6 p.m. Thursday, my son's soccer game. The one I'd promised him I wouldn't miss after skipping the last 3 for overtime shifts. I was reading the email when Dr. Maverick appeared in the pediatric ward. He never came here, ever. Heard you're helping out down here. He stood in the doorway, blocking my exit. Good team player. It's fine. He stepped closer. Too close. I could smell his coffee breath. My office door is thin, he said quietly. I heard you talking to your son about patient files. My stomach dropped. That was a private conversation. Nothing's private when it involves patient information. His voice got even quieter. HIPAA violations cost nurses their licenses, their careers, their ability to provide for their children. Is that a threat? It's a reminder about professional boundaries. He smiled. His eyes stayed cold. We take patient privacy very seriously here. Very seriously. He left, but his cologne lingered. Expensive, suffocating. The pediatric ward was chaos. 22 kids, 3 nurses, a baby screaming with fever, a 5-year-old with breathing issues whose monitor wouldn't stop beeping, a teenager post-appendectomy throwing up every 20 minutes. I didn't get a break for 7 hours. When I finally sat down to chart, my hands were cramping. This was the point. Break me with exhaustion so I'd stop asking questions. Patricia appeared at the pediatric station around 3 p.m. Heard you're our new pediatric nurse. Temporary. That's what they all say. She leaned against the counter. You know, I had questions once too. About overtime discrepancies, about missing supplies, about a lot of things. And now I keep my head down and count the days until retirement. She looked around, making sure we were alone. 11 more months. 11 months until my pension vests fully. I'm not losing that for anyone, not even for patients getting screwed. So you know about the billing? She walked away without answering. That night, after getting home at 8 p.m. instead of 6, after missing my son's game, after he went to bed without talking to me, I sat with my laptop. A text came through from an unknown number. Stop digging or start job hunting. I stared at it. No way to trace it. Probably a burner phone. Another text immediately after. Pediatrics is the easy option. Push harder and see what happens. I thought about calling the police, but what would I say? My boss legally reassigned me. I received vague texts. They'd think I was paranoid. My son appeared in the doorway. Mom, why didn't you come to my game? I got stuck at work, baby. I'm sorry. Cha? Dad came. My ex-husband, who lived 40 minutes away and never came to anything. That's great, I said. He said you're having problems at work. He said maybe I should stay with him for a while. My blood went cold. When did he say that? He called me after the game. Said someone from your hospital called him, said you were under investigation. Someone had called my ex-husband. Someone was trying to take my kids. I screenshot the threatening texts, added them to my encrypted folder labeled Mom's Recipes. Then I called my lawyer, the one for my divorce, the one who cost $200 an hour that I didn't have. If they wanted to fight, they'd get one. But first, I had to survive pediatrics and find out who else knew the truth. The next day, I found Jacob eating alone in the cafeteria. I sat down across from him. He immediately looked nervous, glancing around the room. I can't talk to you. Why? He showed me his phone. An email from Janet. Reminder, unauthorized access to billing systems is a termination offense. They sent that to all of IT yesterday, he said quietly, right after you met with HR. I started to stand up. He grabbed my wrist. But I found something, before they told me to stop looking. He slid a piece of paper under his lunch tray. I pulled it out carefully. His handwriting was cramped, rushed. Billing changes always happen 2 to 3 days after procedures, always by the same user ID, Maverick 1. He kept his voice barely above a whisper. But here's the thing. Half those times, Maverick was in surgery. Someone else is using his login. So it's not just him. The billing changes match deposit dates to something called MRG Consulting. He took a bite of his sandwich, trying to look casual. Janet's LLC. She registered it 18 months ago, right when the billing pattern started. My heart was racing. How much money? I couldn't dig that deep without triggering alerts. But we're talking thousands per patient. Multiply that by... A security guard approached our table. Miss Angelica, you're needed in pediatrics. I looked at Jacob. He was already standing, dumping his tray. I should go, he said loudly. Then as I walked past him, he whispered, check your personal email tonight, and maybe update your resume. I walked back to pediatrics feeling sick. Janet was stealing money through a shell company. Maverick was letting her use his login. They were both in on it, and they knew I knew. The pediatric ward was even worse than this morning. A 2-year-old with RSV whose oxygen kept dropping. A 4-year-old post-tonsillectomy bleeding more than normal. I called the on-call resident 3 times. He never showed. At 4 p.m., I saw Jacob again. He was fixing a computer at the nurse's station. He didn't look at me, just typed while he talked to another nurse about server maintenance. But he left a sticky note under the keyboard. I grabbed it after he left. They're watching your hospital email, use personal only, downloaded files before lockout, Medicare audit next month, they need someone to blame. I crumpled the note, flushed it down the toilet. They weren't just covering up fraud, they were setting me up to take the fall. Medicare was coming, someone had to be sacrificed. The nurse who'd been asking questions, the nurse who'd reported concerns, the nurse whose documentation would suddenly show discrepancies. That night, I checked my personal email. Jacob had sent one message from a Gmail account I didn't recognize. Resume updated, good luck. Attached was a zip file labeled Family Photos. Inside were screenshots, dozens of them, billing records, deposit records, Janet's LLC bank statements showing deposits that matched exactly with the overbilled amounts. Maverick's login times compared to surgical schedules. Evidence, real evidence. At the bottom of the email, this account will be deleted in 1 hour. Save everything offline. They monitor cloud storage. I saved everything to a USB drive. Then I called the only person I could think of who might help. Mrs. Rodriguez, this is Angelica, your husband's nurse. I found out what happened with your bill. Can we meet? Mrs. Rodriguez promised to come see me soon. I was working pediatric nights now, 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. The ward was quieter after midnight, just me, one other nurse, and 22 sleeping kids. That's when I did my real work. I created an encrypted folder on my personal laptop, named it Mom's Recipes. Inside, I built spreadsheets tracking every fraudulent billing change Jacob had sent me. Patient names, real procedures, fake codes, dollar amounts. The pattern was clear. Every single one of Maverick's complex cases got upgraded. Around 2 a.m., Dr. Alvin appeared in the pediatric ward. Strange. Residents never came here at night unless called. Just checking on the Johnson baby, he said loudly, then quieter. I left Mr. Goldman's chart at the nurse's station. Accidentally. He walked away. I found the chart. Goldman's surgical notes from last month. A routine hernia repair billed as complex abdominal reconstruction. $60,000. Alvin came back exactly 5 minutes later. Found it. Thanks. As he took the chart, he whispered, Goldman's son is a healthcare attorney. Thought you should know. I photographed every page before he left. The next night, same routine. Alvin would forget charts, always different patients, always mavericks, always with massive upcoding. I documented everything in my encrypted folder. Why are you helping me? I asked him one night. Because I'm not losing my medical license for these people. When this explodes, and it will explode, I need proof I wasn't involved. So you're using me. We're using each other. You need evidence. I need insurance. Fair enough. By the third night, I had 47 cases documented, 2.8 million in fraudulent billing. The folder was getting huge. I backed it up on 3 different USB drives, hid them in different places, one in my daughter's old toy box, one in a tampon box under my bathroom sink, one in my car's spare tire compartment. Paranoid? Maybe. But Jacob's warnings echoed in my head. They were watching everything. During my lunch break at 3 a.m., I researched Goldman's son, David Goldman, healthcare fraud attorney, specialized in qui tam lawsuits, whistleblower cases where the government joined and the whistleblower got a percentage of recovered funds. I called him from the hospital parking lot using a prepaid phone I'd bought with cash. Mr. Goldman, my name is Angelica. I'm a nurse at Regional Medical. Your father had surgery here last month. It's 3 a.m. I know, I'm sorry, but your father's hernia repair was billed as complex abdominal reconstruction. Silence. Then, how much did they bill? $60,000 for a procedure that should have cost $8,000. Do you have proof? I have 47 cases, 2.8 million in fraud, screenshots, billing records, everything. Don't say another word on the phone. Can you meet tomorrow? I work tomorrow night. Then the morning after. 7 a.m. My office. He gave me the address. And Ms. Angelica? Don't access any more hospital records. What you have is enough. Every time you access their system, you leave a trail. But I couldn't stop. Each chart I photographed was another family destroyed, another patient contemplating bankruptcy, another Mr. Thompson who might not survive the financial pressure. On my 4th night, I found the worst one yet. An elderly woman's routine biopsy billed as extensive cancer surgery. She'd refinanced her house to pay it. The notes showed the biopsy was benign. She never had cancer, but she'd lost her home anyway. I was photographing her chart when footsteps approached. I shoved my phone in my pocket. Karen stood there, watching me. Working hard? She asked. Always. She stared at me for a long moment, then walked away. The next morning, Karen must have reported me because I found Mrs. Rodriguez waiting by my car in the hospital parking lot. You're the nurse asking about the bills. It wasn't a question. Her eyes were red. She'd been crying. Mrs. Rodriguez, I can't discuss. We lost the house. Her voice broke. We're living in my daughter's basement. 2 73-year-olds sleeping on an air mattress next to the water heater. I'm so sorry. My husband's tumor removal became complex reconstruction with grafts. $90,000. $90,000. She grabbed my arm. He had a benign cyst. 1-hour surgery. How does that cost $90,000? I looked around the parking lot. Security cameras everywhere. We shouldn't talk here. I don't care who sees. She opened her purse and pulled out a manila folder. 6 other patients from my support group, same department, same upgraded procedures. Mrs. Chen told me you tried to help her. I took the folder. 6 names, 6 stories. An appendectomy became exploratory surgery with multiple organ repair. A mole removal became melanoma excision with lymph node dissection. Each one upgraded, each one destroyed financially. Can you help us? Mrs. Rodriguez asked. I'm trying. But they moved me to pediatrics. They're watching everything I do. Then be careful. These people are dangerous. She walked away, then turned back. My husband doesn't know I'm here. He's too proud. He thinks this is his fault for getting sick. That night, my phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number, not the threatening one from before. This was Jacob. Coffee shop on Maple. Tuesday, 3 a.m. after your shift. Tuesday came. I drove to the coffee shop, checking my mirrors for anyone following. Jacob was in the back corner, baseball cap pulled low. You look paranoid, he said. Shouldn't I be? He slid his laptop across the table. I wrote a script that copies billing changes to a hidden partition. Every time someone alters a code, it creates a shadow record. Won't they trace it to you? The script runs from a server in Estonia. Bounces through 12 proxies. Even if they find it, which they won't, it leads nowhere. The screen showed hundreds of entries, patient names, original codes, altered codes, timestamps, user IDs. This is evidence of fraud, I said. This is evidence of systematic fraud. Look at the patterns. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 2 p.m., Janet logs in as MAVERICK1 and changes codes. Like clockwork. Why help me? I had to ask. You could lose everything. Jacob closed the laptop. My mom had breast cancer 5 years ago. Routine biopsy. They billed it as extensive tissue removal. $28,000. She spent the last 3 months of her life on the phone with insurance companies instead of with her grandkids. I'm sorry. She died thinking she'd bankrupted our family. The stress probably killed her faster than the cancer. He stood up. I've programmed the script with a dead man's switch. If I don't log in every 3 days, everything gets sent to my cousin at the FBI. Your cousin's really FBI? Financial Crimes Division. He's been begging me for something solid on hospital fraud. Jacob put on his coat. They know you're digging, Angelica. Margaret from HR asked me to pull your computer access logs yesterday. What did you tell her? That I'd get right on it. Then I accidentally corrupted the log files. Oops. He headed for the door, then stopped. There's something else. Maverick's in deep with some bad people. I saw collection notices on his desk, not from banks. From the kind of people who break fingers. How deep? 800,000 deep. That's why he needs the money. That's why he can't stop. After Jacob left, I sat in my car looking at Mrs. Rodriguez's folder. 7 families destroyed, and these were just the ones who'd figured it out. How many others were out there, refinancing homes, draining retirement accounts, declaring bankruptcy? I thought about my mom. She'd died when I was 15. Hospital bills ate everything. Dad worked 3 jobs trying to pay them off. The stress gave him a heart attack. When the nurse missed his sepsis symptoms, when he died alone in that hospital bed, I swore I'd become the nurse who protected patients. Now I was surrounded by people destroying them. My phone rang. Unknown number. Stop what you're doing, Maverick's voice. This is your last warning. He hung up before I could respond. I looked at the coffee shop. Jacob was gone. The street was empty. But I didn't feel alone. I felt watched. The next morning, Karen must have reported me because I found Mrs. Rodriguez waiting by my car in the hospital parking lot. You're the nurse asking about the bills. It wasn't a question. Her eyes were red. She'd been crying. Mrs. Rodriguez, I can't discuss. We lost the house. Her voice broke. We're living in my daughter's basement. 2 73-year-olds sleeping on an air mattress next to the water heater. I'm so sorry. My husband's tumor removal became complex reconstruction with grafts. $90,000. $90,000. She grabbed my arm. He had a benign cyst. 1-hour surgery. How does that cost $90,000? I looked around the parking lot, security cameras everywhere. We shouldn't talk here. I don't care who sees. She opened her purse and pulled out a manila folder. 6 other patients from my support group, same department, same upgraded procedures. Mrs. Chen told me you tried to help her. I took the folder, 6 names, 6 stories. An appendectomy became exploratory surgery with multiple organ repair. A mole removal became melanoma excision with lymph node dissection. Each one upgraded, each one destroyed financially. Can you help us? Mrs. Rodriguez asked. I'm trying. But they moved me to pediatrics. They're watching everything I do. Then be careful. These people are dangerous. She walked away, then turned back. My husband doesn't know I'm here. He's too proud. He thinks this is his fault for getting sick. That night, my phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number, not the threatening one from before. This was Jacob. Coffee shop on Maple, Tuesday 3 a.m. after your shift. Tuesday came. I drove to the coffee shop, checking my mirrors for anyone following. Jacob was in the back corner, baseball cap pulled low. You look paranoid, he said. Shouldn't I be? He slid his laptop across the table. I wrote a script that copies billing changes to a hidden partition. Every time someone alters a code, it creates a shadow record. Won't they trace it to you? The script runs from a server in Estonia. Bounces through 12 proxies. Even if they find it, which they won't, it leads nowhere. The screen showed hundreds of entries. Patient names, original codes, altered codes, timestamps, user IDs. This is evidence of fraud, I said. This is evidence of systematic fraud. Look at the patterns. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 2 p.m., Janet logs in as MAVERICK1 and changes codes, like clockwork. Why help me? I had to ask. You could lose everything. Jacob closed the laptop. My mom had breast cancer 5 years ago, routine biopsy. They billed it as extensive tissue removal, $28,000. She spent the last 3 months of her life on the phone with insurance companies instead of with her grandkids. I'm sorry. She died thinking she'd bankrupted our family. The stress probably killed her faster than the cancer. He stood up. I've programmed the script with a dead man's switch. If I don't log in every 3 days, everything gets sent to my cousin at the FBI. Your cousin's really FBI? Financial Crimes Division. He's been begging me for something solid on hospital fraud. Jacob put on his coat. They know you're digging, Angelica. Margaret from HR asked me to pull your computer access logs yesterday. What did you tell her? That I'd get right on it. Then I accidentally corrupted the log files. Oops. He headed for the door, then stopped. There's something else. Maverick's in deep with some bad people. I saw collection notices on his desk, not from banks, from the kind of people who break fingers. How deep? 800,000 deep. That's why he needs the money. That's why he can't stop. After Jacob left, I sat in my car looking at Mrs. Rodriguez's folder. 7 families destroyed. And these were just the ones who'd figured it out. How many others were out there, refinancing homes, draining retirement accounts, declaring bankruptcy? I thought about my mom. She died when I was 15. Hospital bills ate everything. Dad worked 3 jobs trying to pay them off. The stress gave him a heart attack. When the nurse missed his sepsis symptoms, when he died alone in that hospital bed, I swore I'd become the nurse who protected patients. Now I was surrounded by people destroying them. My phone rang. Unknown number. Stop what you're doing, Maverick's voice. This is your last warning. He hung up before I could respond. I looked at the coffee shop. Jacob was gone. The street was empty, but I didn't feel alone. I felt watched. I started avoiding the day shift station after that close call with Karen. But the next night, I needed supplies from their storage room. I grabbed what I needed quickly, too quickly, knocked over a box of syringes. They scattered across the floor like pickup sticks. I was on my knees picking them up when Karen appeared. What are you doing in here? This is day shift station. Left my charger. I kept gathering syringes. My hands were shaking. Your charger's in the syringe box? I was looking for it, knocked these over. She watched me clean up. Didn't help, just watched. When I finally stood, she was blocking the door. Funny thing, someone's been accessing patient files during night shifts. Files they have no reason to access. I review all my patients' histories. Patients who were discharged months ago? My mouth went dry. Sometimes I like to follow up. See how they're doing. She stepped aside. Let me pass. But as I walked by, she whispered, Patricia tried to be a hero too. Look where it got her. And after that, I only photographed charts when I was completely alone, but being alone was getting harder. Maverick started showing up during my night shifts. 2, 3 in the morning. There he'd be, just checking on our pediatric unit, he'd say. How's the workload? The third time he showed up, he cornered me by the medication cart. Busy night? Always. He stood between me and the exit, close enough I could smell the bourbon on his breath. Your son plays soccer at Riverside Park, right? My blood turned to ice. How do you know that? Small hospital, people talk. He smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. Dangerous neighborhood. Lot of gang activity there. Drug dealers. You should be careful. Is that a threat? It's concern for a colleague's family. He finally stepped back. Single mother, 2 kids, dangerous world out there. The next morning, my son's coach called. Angelica? Weird thing happened. A man claiming to be from hospital HR called asking if you've been missing games due to performance issues at work. What did you tell him? Nothing. Felt wrong, but he knew your kid's name, position, jersey number, said they were doing a wellness check. Did he give his name? Dr. Maverick something. Said he was your supervisor. I hung up. They were investigating my family, getting information, building a case. That night I couldn't focus. Every time a door opened, I jumped. Every footstep made my heart race. Around 4 a.m., I was checking on a sleeping toddler when my phone buzzed. Text from Jacob. They pulled your access logs. Margaret has them. Another text. Get what you need tonight. Tomorrow might be too late. I spent the next 2 hours photographing everything I could find, hands shaking, sweat dripping, every sound making me freeze. At 6:30, 30 minutes before shift change, Patricia appeared. You look tired. Long night. They're all long nights in pediatrics. She sat down next to me. You know, I had a friend once, thought she could change things, thought she could fight the system. What happened to her? Lost her license. Something about HIPAA violations. Accessing records without authorization. Patricia stood up. Shame. She was a good nurse, but good doesn't matter if you can't work. She left. The threat was clear. I finished my shift and walked to my car in the morning sun, exhausted, scared, but also angry. They thought they could threaten my kids, destroy my career, make me disappear like Patricia's friend. I sat in my car and called David Goldman. Mr. Goldman? I have 53 cases documented, 3.2 million in fraud. They're threatening my children. Can you meet today? They're watching me. Then we need to move fast. FBI has a field office downtown. Can you get there? They'll know if I don't go home. Then go home first. Rest. Pack a bag for your kids, then come. If they're threatening your family, we need federal protection. I drove home. My kids were at school. The house felt empty, dangerous. I packed 3 bags, clothes, medications, important papers. Then I called my sister. Can the kids stay with you for a few days? What's wrong? I can't explain, just please. Of course. I looked around my house. 8 years I'd worked to afford this place. 8 years of overtime shifts, extra holidays, missed birthdays. Now I might lose everything. But Mrs. Rodriguez had already lost everything. Mr. Thompson had lost his life. I grabbed the USB drives and headed downtown. I headed downtown but never made it to the FBI office. Janet was waiting in the hospital lobby when I came back for my next shift. She had a manila folder in her hands. Security guard standing behind her. Angelica, we need to talk. She led me to a conference room. Spread printed emails across the table. My hospital email address to my personal Gmail. Subject lines visible. Patient records, billing information, confidential data. Funny thing, IT found emails from your hospital account to your personal account. Patient information. I stared at the papers. I never sent those. Your login, your computer, your shift times. She tapped each email. 11 separate HIPAA violations. They'd fabricated everything. While I was photographing charts, they were building a case against me. Each violation carries a $50,000 fine, Janet continued. Possible criminal charges, definite loss of your nursing license. You're framing me. We're protecting patient privacy. Yeah, she leaned back. But we're not unreasonable. Resign quietly, sign this non-disclosure agreement, and we won't file a complaint with the nursing board. She slid another paper across. A resignation letter. Already typed, already dated. I need time to think. 24 hours, Janet stood. After that, we file with the state board. And once that happens, it's public record. Every hospital in the country will see it. I drove home in a daze. My career versus my conscience. My children's stability versus patients' lives. That night, my daughter came to my room crying. Mom, there's a car outside. It's been there for 2 hours. I looked out her bedroom window, dark sedan, engine running, just sitting there. I called 911. There's a suspicious vehicle outside my house. By the time police arrived 15 minutes later, the car was gone. The officer took my report but seemed skeptical. Probably just someone lost looking at their GPS. After he left, I double-checked all our locks. Moved a chair against the front door. Kept my phone next to me. At midnight, Jacob texted from another burner number. They're on to us. Maverick withdrew $50,000 cash yesterday, either paying debts or buying silence. Another text immediately after. I recorded today's revenue meeting. You need to hear this. They're planning something bigger. Medicare audit is coming. They need a fall person. He sent an audio file. I put in earbuds, volume low, listening in the dark. Maverick's voice. Medicare auditors arrive in 3 weeks. They'll focus on complex procedures from the last 18 months. Janet. Everything's documented. Original notes match the billing codes. What about the nurse situation? Handled. She'll be gone before the audit. If questions come up, we have evidence of her unauthorized access to patient records. Clear HIPAA violations. Disgruntled employee trying to cause trouble after being disciplined. Someone else, maybe doctor. Harrison. What if she goes to the media? With what? A nurse who violated HIPAA claiming fraud without documentation against our legal team? Janet laughed. She'd be destroyed. The Goldman kid concerns me. His father was a patient. One patient, one possible error. We've already corrected it, showed good faith. The recording ended. They weren't just covering up, they were rewriting history. Changing records retroactively. And setting me up to take the blame if anything went wrong. I texted Jacob, can you get proof they're altering old records? Already trying. They're using a different server, off-site, need physical access. Where? Janet's office, personal computer, Janet's office, 3rd floor, executive wing, key card access, security cameras. I can't get there. I can. Tomorrow night, maintenance window, but I need a distraction. What kind of distraction? Big enough to pull security away from admin wing, 20 minutes minimum. I thought about my options. 24 hours to decide. Resign and let them continue destroying families, or fight and risk everything. My daughter appeared in the doorway. Mom? I'm scared. Come here, baby. She crawled into bed next to me. Are we in trouble? No, I'm just trying to help some people. The sick people? Yeah, the sick people. She fell asleep against my shoulder. I stared at the ceiling, planning. 24 hours, Medicare audit in 3 weeks, 50,000 cash withdrawn. Something was happening, something bigger than just fraud, and I had one day to figure out what. 24 hours passed without me sleeping. I arrived for my shift at 10 p.m. My badge didn't work. Tried it 3 times. The little red light just blinked at me. The security guard, Marcus, walked over. We'd known each other 5 years. His daughter had been in my son's kindergarten class. Badge has been deactivated pending investigation. Investigation of what? He wouldn't look at me. You need to leave the premises. Marcus, it's me. What's going on? I'm sorry, Angelica. Orders from administration. You're suspended without pay, effective immediately. He escorted me out, past the ICU where I'd worked for 8 years, past pediatrics where I'd been exiled, past the cafeteria where Jacob had slipped me evidence. Everyone staring, everyone knowing. In the parking lot, I called Margaret from HR. This is a misunderstanding. I never sent those emails. The evidence says otherwise. The investigation will determine the facts. How long? These things take time. Weeks, maybe months. I have rent due in 5 days. I have kids. That's not the hospital's concern. She hung up. I sat in my car and opened Indeed on my phone. Posted my resume to 8 different hospitals within an hour. By the time I got home, I had 8 rejection emails. All form letters, all within minutes of each other. My friend Lisa worked at Valley Medical. I called her. They blacklisted you, she said quietly. Your name's on some kind of list. HR won't say what, but they won't touch you. Can you put in a word? I'm sorry. I can't risk my job. I've got 3 kids. My bank app showed $567. Rent was $1,500, due in 5 days. No paycheck coming, no prospects. My daughter got home from school first. Mom, why are you here? Where's your uniform? I'm taking some time off. But you never take time off. You worked on Christmas. My son came in next. Dropped his backpack, stared at me. Did you get fired? No, just suspended. What's suspended? Like a timeout. What did you do wrong? What could I tell him? That I tried to stop people from stealing? That doing the right thing costs everything? I tried to help some patients. And that's bad? Sometimes helping people makes other people angry. That night I applied to clinics, nursing homes, urgent care centers, anywhere that might not check the blacklist. Each application took an hour. Each one required references. References I couldn't provide because everyone at Regional Medical had been warned not to talk to me. Patricia texted me around midnight. They're saying you stole drugs. Opioids from the medication cart. Everyone knows it's bullshit, but nobody will speak up. Why tell people I stole drugs? Because then, when you claim fraud, you look like an addict trying to deflect. Classic move. I checked my credit cards. $3,000 in available credit. Enough for 2 months if I was careful. Not enough to fight a legal battle. Not enough to last until this investigation ended. My phone rang. Unknown number. Having trouble finding work? Maverick's voice. What do you want? Same thing I've always wanted, for this to go away quietly. People are dying. Mr. Thompson killed himself. Mr. Thompson was terminal. You're not. Yet. But unemployment can be terminal too. No insurance, no income, kids depending on you. Are you threatening my children? I'm explaining reality. Sign the resignation letter. Sign the NDA. This all goes away. You get a neutral reference. Find work somewhere else. And the fraud continues. What fraud? The one claimed by a drug-addicted nurse who stole from patients? He hung up. I looked at my sleeping kids through their doorway. How long before I couldn't feed them? How long before we lost the house? How long before my ex-husband used this to take them? $567, 5 days to rent, 8 rejections in 1 hour. This was how they won. Not through courts or investigations, through exhaustion, through poverty, through isolation. But I still had the USB drives, still had Jacob's recordings, still had Mrs. Rodriguez and her 6 patients. I wasn't done yet. Day 3 without work, and the final notice for the electric bill was taped to my door. I drove to the pawn shop on 8th Street with my mother's jewelry, the wedding ring she never got to wear long enough, the pearl necklace from my grandmother, $300 for all of it. I was signing the paperwork when the door chimed. Maverick walked in. Tough times? He looked at the jewelry on the counter. Your mother's? I didn't answer. This could all go away. He leaned against the counter. Retract your HR complaint. Say you were stressed, made mistakes. Patients are dying. Mr. Thompson killed himself last week, left a note about medical debt. Mr. Thompson had advanced cancer. He was dying anyway. He had treatable pneumonia. You billed it as lung cancer treatment. Maverick pulled out an envelope, thick with cash. $5,000. Moving expenses. There's a nice hospital in Ohio looking for nurses. My phone buzzed. The school. Mrs. Martinez? Your daughter is in the office crying. Someone called saying you're under investigation for drug theft. Asked if we've noticed behavioral changes in your children. My hands shook. I'll be right there. I grabbed the $300 from the pawn shop owner and left. Maverick followed me to the parking lot. They're scared, Angelica. Your kids. This stress isn't good for them. You called my daughter's school? Someone's concerned about their welfare. Drug-addicted mother. Unstable home. I got in my car. He leaned into the window. Take the money. Leave town. Everyone wins. I drove to school. My daughter was sitting in the nurse's office, face blotchy from crying. The principal wanted to talk. We received a concerning call about your situation. There's no situation. The caller said you're under investigation for stealing opioids. It's not true. She looked at me with pity. Maybe you should consider some time with their father. While you sort things out. My ex-husband lived in Seattle. The kids saw him twice a year. He'd already called me 3 times this week, suddenly interested in custody. That evening, 7 p.m., doorbell rang. 2 women with clipboards. Child Protective Services. We received a concerning call. They came in, looked in the refrigerator, checked the bedrooms, asked my kids questions while I sat in the kitchen, not allowed to listen. My daughter came out first, crying again. My son followed, jaw clenched, the way it did when he was trying not to cry. Mom has been home a lot, he told them, but she's not sick. She's not on drugs. She's trying to help people at her work. The social worker, Mrs. Patterson, was kind, but thorough. Checked my arms for track marks, asked about my medications, looked through my medicine cabinet. Everything seems fine, she said finally, but we'll need to follow up in a week. After she left, my son sat next to me on the couch. Mom, are we going to have to live with Dad? No, baby. He called me yesterday, said you might be too sick to take care of us. I'm not sick. Then why does everyone think you are? How could I explain that telling the truth had become a crime? That saving lives meant losing everything? My daughter joined us. Sophie's mom said we can't have playdates anymore. She said you're dangerous. $300 from the jewelry, $567 in the bank, rent due in 2 days, no job, no references, CPS watching, ex-husband circling. I opened my laptop, checked my email, 43 rejections from nursing positions, all form letters, all within minutes of applying. Patricia texted, they're telling everyone you were high at work, that you stole from the med cart. I'm sorry, I can't help, my pension. Dr. Alvin, can't text anymore. They're watching everyone who talks to you. Even Mrs. Rodriguez had gone quiet. I looked at my kids doing homework at the kitchen table. We had cereal for dinner because I was saving the last of the chicken for tomorrow. They didn't complain. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Angelica? Woman's voice. This is Amy Chen. Mrs. Chen's daughter, the one with the $47,000 bill. I can't discuss patients. I'm not calling about that. I'm a reporter. My mom told me what you tried to do. I want to help. I can't talk to media. There's an investigation. I know about the investigation. I also know it's bullshit. Meet me. Off the record. I looked at my kids. 2 days to rent. CPS coming back in a week. Electric bill overdue. When? Tonight. After your kids are asleep. I met Amy Chen at midnight in a 24-hour diner 15 miles from town. By 2 in the morning, I was back home, wide awake, replaying Jacob's recordings on my laptop. The kids were asleep. The house was dark except for my computer screen. I'd listened to the revenue meeting 3 times already, but this time, I heard something different. Maverick's voice through my earbuds. Medicare auditors always check complex procedures. Make sure the documentation matches the billing codes retroactively. Janet responded, I've got templates for surgical notes. We'll backfill. Then another voice. Dr. Harrison, Chief of Staff. If anyone asks, we run a clean ship. Whistleblowers tend to have mental health issues, substance problems. My hands shook. They'd just admitted to conspiracy. On tape. Planning to alter medical records. Planning to destroy me. My phone buzzed. Text from Mrs. Rodriguez. Local news interested in our story. Reporter wants to meet. Another buzz. Unknown number. Check your front door. I crept to the door, baseball bat in hand. No one there. But an envelope was taped to the doorframe. Inside, a handwritten note from Dr. Alvin. Goldman's son filed Quitam lawsuit. Needs nurse witness. 30% of recovery if government joins. 30%. If the fraud was $3.2 million, that was almost $1 million. Enough to fight back, enough to protect my kids. I Googled Quitam lawsuits, Federal False Claims Act. Whistleblowers could sue on behalf of the government. If the government joined in one, whistleblower got 15 to 30% of recovered funds. But I'd need proof. Real proof. Not just recordings and photos. Jacob texted from another new number. Janet's office tomorrow night. During shift change, 7 p.m. Can you create distraction? What kind? Big enough to pull security to pediatric wing, 10 minutes. I thought about what would pull all security to pediatrics. Medical emergency, code blue. Something with kids always got priority response. I can do it. Good. Once I get into her computer, we'll have everything. Medicare audit trail, altered records, bank transfers. I spent the next hour transcribing the recording, every word, every admission, Maverick saying they needed to match documentation retroactively, Janet offering to backfill surgical notes, Harrison calling whistleblowers mentally ill. At 4 a.m., I finally tried to sleep. Couldn't. Kept thinking about Mr. Thompson, his suicide note blaming medical debt, his wife finding him in the garage. My phone rang at 5. Private number. Miss Martinez? David Goldman, my father's attorney. It's 5 in the morning. I know, but FBI wants to meet. Today. They're interested in your evidence. I can't. CPS is watching me. If I disappear with my kids, bring them. FBI has a family room, games, snacks. They'll be safe. How do I know you're really Goldman's son? You photographed my father's chart last week. Hernia repair billed as complex reconstruction. You sent the photos to a Gmail account. The account Jacob set up. He knew details only someone inside would know. When? 10 a.m. Federal Building downtown. Agent Sarah Coleman. I hung up. Looked at my sleeping kids. 5 hours until the meeting. 24 hours until rent was due. 7 p.m. for Jacob to break into Janet's office. Everything was converging. I made breakfast, woke the kids, tried to act normal. Why aren't you getting ready for work? My son asked. Day off. You don't get days off. Today I do. My daughter looked worried. Are we in trouble? No, baby. We're going to help some people. The sick people? Yeah, the sick people who got hurt by bad people. She nodded. Like superheroes? Something like that. I packed snacks, tablets, chargers. Made it seem like a fun outing. But my hands shook as I loaded them into the car. The FBI building loomed ahead. Gray concrete, government power, either salvation or destruction. Agent Coleman met us in the lobby. Miss Martinez? We've been expecting you. My kids gripped my hands as we followed her inside. The FBI meeting lasted 3 hours, but it changed everything. Agent Coleman took my evidence, every recording, every photograph, every spreadsheet. She made copies of everything while my kids played video games in the next room. This is significant, she said. But we need something current, something showing they're actively altering records right now. That's when I told her about tonight. 7 p.m. Jacob breaking into Janet's office. That's breaking and entering, Coleman said. Not if I still have hospital access. You were suspended. My badge was deactivated, but I still have my key to the loading dock. Physical key. They never asked for it back. Coleman leaned back. If you get caught, we can't protect you. If I don't do this, they'll destroy everything before Medicare arrives. She slid a business card across the table. My direct line. If you get in trouble, call immediately. I left the FBI building at 2 p.m., 5 hours until Jacob needed his distraction. Amy Chen called as I drove home. My mom almost died because of that bill. Her voice was shaking. She took pills. I found her just in time. We met at the park while my kids played on the swings. Amy looked exhausted, dark circles, hands trembling. I need one document, she said. Just one showing original procedure notes versus billing, side by side, irrefutable proof. I can get it tonight. How? Don't ask. She nodded. I'll have a camera crew ready. We go live tomorrow morning if you get it. Jacob texted at 6 p.m. Can get you into system tonight 3 a.m., maintenance window, 10 minutes max. I texted back. Can't. Kids. Babysitter canceled. Bring them. Leave in car. 10 minutes. I looked at my kids doing homework. This was insane, bringing children to a break-in. But Mrs. Rodriguez's husband had lost their house. Mr. Thompson had killed himself. How many more would suffer if I didn't act? At 2:30 a.m., I woke my kids. We're going on an adventure. Mom, it's nighttime, my daughter mumbled. I know, baby. Just a quick drive. You can sleep in the car. I gave them tablets, headphones, blankets. Parked behind the hospital where security cameras had a blind spot. Jacob had left the loading dock door propped open with a rock. Stay here, I told them. Door locked. Don't open for anyone but me. 10 minutes. My son nodded, trying to be brave. My daughter was already absorbed in her game. I slipped inside. The hospital at night felt different. Familiar halls turned menacing, every shadow a threat. My footsteps echoed despite my trying to walk softly. Maverick's office was on the 3rd floor, executive wing. I took the stairs, avoiding the elevator cameras. His door was locked, but Jacob had taught me about the universal key. Every hospital had one for emergencies. I'd taken it from the crashed cart in pediatrics weeks ago. The door opened, his computer was on, password protected, but Jacob had given me a USB drive. Plugged it in, it bypassed the login, and there it was, an Excel file labeled Revenue Enhancement Tracking. $3.2 million in additional captures over 18 months. Every patient listed, every real procedure, every fraudulent code, every dollar stolen. But that wasn't the worst part. There was a second sheet. Medicare prep. It showed altered records, backdated surgical notes matching the fraudulent billing. Timestamps changed. Digital signatures forged. They weren't just stealing, they were rewriting history. I photographed everything, downloaded files to my phone. Then I heard footsteps in the hallway. A flashlight beam swept past the window. Someone's in Dr. Maverick's office, a security guard said into his radio. My kids were in the car. If I got arrested now, CPS would take them. My ex-husband would get custody. Everything I'd sacrificed would be for nothing. The doorknob turned. I hid behind the door as it swung open. The security guard stepped in, flashlight sweeping the room. My heart hammered so loud I was sure he'd hear it. He walked to the desk, saw the computer screen still glowing. False alarm, he said into his radio. Dr. Maverick must have forgotten to log out again. He moved to shut down the computer. If he saw what was on the screen, the Excel file showing $3.2 million in fraud, it was over. I slipped out behind him, made it 3 steps before his flashlight beam caught me. Hey! Stop! I ran. Down the hall, into the stairwell, taking steps 3 at a time. Behind me, his radio crackled. Subject fleeing west stairwell, female, dark hair. I burst out the loading dock. My kids were still in the car, faces glowing from their tablets. I jumped in, started the engine, and drove away slowly. No speeding, no panic, just a mom driving her kids home from a late-night emergency. Mom, why are you breathing funny? My son asked. Just tired, baby. At home, I uploaded everything to 3 different cloud services, emailed copies to Amy Chen, David Goldman, and Agent Coleman. By 4 a.m., the evidence was everywhere, impossible to destroy. At 7 a.m., someone pounded on my door, 2 police officers, 3 more behind them, warrant in hand. Angelica Martinez, you're under arrest for theft of intellectual property, breaking and entering, and HIPAA violations. My daughter came out of her room rubbing her eyes, saw the police, started screaming. Mom didn't do anything wrong. It's okay, baby. I put my hands behind my back for the cuffs. Call Aunt Sarah. My son stood frozen. 12 years old, trying to be the man of the house. I'll call her, he said, voice steady. But his hands shook as he picked up the phone. The neighbors were on their lawns, watching, recording with their phones. Mrs. Henderson from next door wouldn't meet my eyes. She'd brought us casserole when we first moved in. They put me in the back of the squad car, my kids pressed against the window, crying. The last thing I saw was my son pulling his sister back inside. At the station, a man in a $1,000 suit was waiting, Maverick's lawyer. Miss Martinez, Dr. Maverick is willing to drop all charges, simple misunderstanding. In exchange for? Plead guilty to trespassing, sign an NDA, return all stolen documents. No. Your children are currently with CPS. My blood went cold. You're lying. Your sister can't take them. She has a DUI from 8 years ago. Your ex-husband, however, is flying in from Seattle, clean record, stable income, 2-parent household with his new wife. I thought of my kids, their faces at the window, their tears. If you sign now, he continued, charges dropped, you get your kids back today. Fight us, and they'll be in Seattle by tomorrow night. I want my phone call. Of course, but choose wisely. Your children's future depends on it. He left me alone. 1 phone call. I could call my sister, try to fix the CPS situation, call a lawyer I couldn't afford, or I dialed Agent Coleman. This is Coleman. They arrested me. They have my kids. Where are you? City jail. They want me to sign an NDA. Don't sign anything. We're 15 minutes out. My kids. We've got them. They're safe. Your sister picked them up an hour ago. CPS never had them. The lawyer had lied. Of course he had. I sat in that cell for 3 hours, thinking about Mr. Thompson, Mrs. Rodriguez, my father dying because someone didn't do their job, my kids crying at the window. When Coleman arrived, she wasn't alone. 2 FBI agents, a federal prosecutor, and Amy Chen with a camera crew. Ms. Martinez, the prosecutor said, you're now a federal witness. These local charges are superseded. The desk sergeant looked confused. But the warrant is now federal evidence of witness intimidation. They walked me out past Maverick's lawyer, who was frantically making phone calls. Amy Chen's camera was rolling. This is Amy Chen reporting live. A nurse who exposed $3.2 million in Medicare fraud was arrested this morning in what the FBI is calling blatant witness intimidation. I walked out of the police station into chaos. Amy Chen's camera crew was already set up. The prosecutor held my arm, guiding me past the shouting reporters. My legs felt like water. My phone had been dead for hours. The moment Coleman handed it back to me, it exploded with messages. Missed calls from my sister, texts from Jacob. But the one that stopped me cold was from Mrs. Rodriguez. They're at the hospital. All of us, the patients. We're not leaving until they answer us. I called her back. She answered on the first ring. Angelica! Thank God. We saw the news. Amy Chen called me after you were arrested. Where are my kids? Safe with your sister. David Goldman's there too. He won't let anyone near them. David Goldman, the healthcare attorney. Mrs. Rodriguez had called him the moment I was arrested. I'll be at the station in 10 minutes, he'd told her. Then he'd called Amy Chen. Then the FBI, created a chain reaction that couldn't be stopped. By the time I was sitting in that cell thinking I'd lost everything, David was already in the lobby with federal paperwork. You can't arrest a whistleblower engaging in protected activity, he told the desk sergeant. The sergeant had looked confused. The warrant says breaking and entering. She had authorized access. Never formally revoked. I have the employment contract right here. That's when Agent Coleman arrived with the federal prosecutor. They'd been monitoring the situation since my morning visit, waiting for the hospital to make a mistake. And arresting me, that was their biggest mistake yet. This proves consciousness of guilt, the prosecutor explained as we walked to the federal building. They knew you had evidence of fraud, so they tried to silence you with false charges. Amy Chen went live at 6 p.m. Primetime news. This is Amy Chen reporting live from Regional Medical, where a nurse was arrested this morning after exposing potential Medicare fraud. She held up 2 documents to the camera. This is my mother's original bill, $47,000 for a spinal fusion she never had. And this is the corrected bill after Nurse Martinez intervened. $8,000 for the steroid injection she actually received. The split screen showed her mother, Mrs. Chen, in tears. This nurse saved our house, and they arrested her for it. The camera panned to the hospital entrance. At least 30 people stood there. Mrs. Rodriguez in front, holding a sign. How many more families destroyed? Behind her, other patients. Mr. Johnson with his colonoscopy bill, Sarah Miller with her antibiotics turned chemo invoice, Tommy the Vietnam vet, all holding their fraudulent bills like protest signs. We're not leaving, Mrs. Rodriguez told Amy's camera. Not until someone explains why our bills were inflated, why we lost our homes, why Mr. Thompson is dead. Inside the hospital, Margaret from HR was in full damage control mode. I could see her through the lobby windows, talking rapidly on her phone. Her assistant ran past with boxes of files. Upstairs, Maverick was in his office. Jacob had installed a program that sent screenshots every hour. The images showed him throwing documents into boxes, deleting files from his computer, his hands moving so fast they were blurred in the screenshots. In the parking garage, security cameras caught Janet loading banker boxes into her trunk. Stacks of them, years of evidence she was trying to make disappear. But it was too late. The FBI had my files. Amy Chen had the story. The patients had their bills, and Jacob's hidden program had captured everything. They're panicking, Coleman told me as we watched from the federal building. Destroying evidence during an active investigation. That's obstruction of justice, additional felony charges. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Angelica? It was Patricia, the nurse who'd warned me, who'd kept her head down for her pension. I can't do this anymore, watching them destroy you. I have 17 months of billing records hidden at home, patients who died after being overbilled, suicides, heart attacks from stress. Everything Maverick doesn't know I kept. Patricia, that's evidence of murder, I know. Some of these patients died because they couldn't afford real treatment after paying for fake procedures. That's murder. The prosecutor grabbed my phone. Ma'am? This is Federal Prosecutor James Wright. Where are you now? In my car. Outside the hospital, with 3 boxes of evidence. Don't move. FBI agents are 5 minutes away. The news kept spreading. Channel 7 picked it up, then Channel 4. By 8 p.m., it was on CNN. Hospital whistleblower arrested in apparent retaliation. Maverick tried to leave through the back exit. Reporters were waiting. Dr. Maverick, did you inflate patient bills to pay gambling debts? He pushed past them, said nothing. But his face told everything. Panic. Pure panic. I watched Maverick get pushed into the police car as federal agents arrived at the station. Agent Coleman met me in the hallway. Ms. Angelica is under federal protection. Release her immediately. The desk sergeant fumbled with paperwork. His hands shook. He'd never had the FBI override his authority before. But the arrest warrant is now evidence of witness intimidation. Coleman's voice was ice. Where's the paperwork? At 6 the next morning, I watched the raid from a safe house. Live news coverage. FBI agents pouring into regional medical like an invasion. Black SUVs, tactical vests, boxes wheeled out on dollies. They seized everything. Every computer, every file, every backup drive. Maverick's personal laptop was in an evidence bag within minutes. Patricia had given them a roadmap. Which offices, which computers, which hidden files. 17 months of documentation she'd been collecting, waiting for someone brave enough to use it. Maverick tried to run. Airport security found him at gate 47 with a ticket to Costa Rica. One way, paid cash. His girlfriend waiting in first class, wondering why he wasn't boarding. Dr. Maverick, you're under arrest for healthcare fraud. He didn't resist, just stood there while they cuffed him. The mighty department head who'd terrorized nurses for years, reduced to nothing. Janet made it farther. State troopers caught her at the Pennsylvania border. $200,000 cash in her trunk. Banker boxes full of shredded documents in the back seat. She'd been driving all night. I want a lawyer, was all she said. But Margaret, from HR? She flipped instantly. I was just following orders, she told the FBI. I have emails proving everything. Maverick made me do it. Janet threatened my job. She handed over 3 years of emails, every instruction to cover up fraud, every threat against whistleblowers, every plan to destroy evidence. I kept everything, she said. I knew this day would come. Dr. Harrison, the chief of staff, resigned that afternoon. Personal reasons, the press release said, but everyone knew. His signature was on half the fraudulent documents, his voice on Jacob's recordings. Karen and Patricia were suspended immediately. Not arrested, not yet, but their nursing licenses frozen while investigators determined their involvement. We were just following orders, Karen told reporters. We didn't know. But they knew. They'd known for years. Kept quiet for their pensions, for their comfort, while patients killed themselves over bills they shouldn't have had. I sat in the federal building watching it all unfold on multiple screens. My kids were with my sister, safe, protected by federal marshals David Goldman had arranged. This is just the beginning, Coleman told me. We have 43 other employees to interview. Some will flip, some won't, but the main players are done. My phone buzzed. Text from Jacob. Watching the news. You did it, then another text. Check your email. I opened my laptop. Email from Jacob with the subject line, everything. Inside were files. Hundreds of them. Every billing change from the last 3 years, every fraudulent code, every patient affected, names, dates, amounts, the complete picture of the conspiracy. I've been collecting this since my mom died, his message said, waiting for someone brave enough to use it. That was you, 3.2 million in 18 months. But the real total? Over 10 million in 3 years, 312 patients, 7 confirmed suicides, 14 who'd lost homes. Agent Coleman looked at the data. This changes everything. This isn't just fraud, it's racketeering, RICO charges, 20 years minimum. Outside news vans surrounded the hospital, patients holding signs, former employees coming forward, the story growing bigger every hour. Amy Chen went live again. The FBI confirms this is the largest healthcare fraud case in state history. Behind her, Mrs. Rodriguez stood with other victims. We want justice for Mr. Thompson, for all of us who suffered. The hospital board called an emergency meeting. Within 2 hours, they'd fired 6 executives, promised full cooperation, pledged to refund every fraudulent charge. But it was too late for Mr. Thompson. Too late for the 7 who'd killed themselves. Too late for the families destroyed. All because one nurse decided to ask why a steroid injection cost $47,000. All because I couldn't look away when Mrs. Chen begged for help. The safe house felt like a prison with better furniture. We'd been there 5 days. My kids doing online school at the kitchen table. Me rationing my anxiety medication because I couldn't get a refill without leaving, without being seen. Mom, when can we go home? My daughter asked for the 10th time. Soon, baby. But I didn't know if that was true. David Goldman came by every morning at 9. Today he brought coffee and bad news. Grand jury convenes tomorrow, he said. If they indict, you're safe. Federal protection continues. But if they don't, the hospital's counter supersedes. For $10 million in defamation, plus criminal charges for breaking and entering. I stared at my coffee. Black, no sugar, everything tasted like cardboard anyway. Maverick's laptop had everything, David continued. Spreadsheets tracking the fraud, bank records showing deposits from Janet's LLC, emails to bookies about payment plans. That should be enough. Should be. But his lawyer's claiming you planted it, that you had access to his office, could have put files on his computer. My hands shook. That's insane. Janet kept recordings of all conversations. For insurance, she called it. We have her on tape discussing the Medicare prep, how to backfill records. Then we're fine. If the grand jury believes it, 14 patients have joined the lawsuit. That helps. Mrs. Thompson's testimony about her husband will be powerful. Mrs. Thompson, her husband dead in the garage. Note blaming medical debt that shouldn't have existed. My phone buzzed. Text from Dr. Alvin. They offered me department head, said no, waiting for you to come back. I almost laughed. Come back, like I'd ever work in a hospital again. Another text. New management cleaning house. Real changes. They need you. David's phone rang. He stepped outside to answer. Through the window, I watched him pace. His face got tight, worried. He came back in. Margaret from HR just gave the FBI everything. 3 years of emails, every instruction from Maverick, every cover-up she participated in. That's good, right? She's claiming you knew about the fraud for months, that you participated initially, then got scared. What? She's trying to save herself by throwing you under, too. My daughter looked up from her homework. Mom? Are you okay? Fine, baby. But I wasn't. Margaret had emails, fake ones probably, or taken out of context. She'd protected the hospital for years. She knew how to build a narrative. The grand jury needs to see you, David said. Hear your story directly. Tomorrow, 9 a.m. What if they don't believe me? They will. You have truth on your side. Truth. Like truth had protected Mr. Thompson. Like truth had saved Mrs. Rodriguez's house the first time. That night I couldn't sleep. Kept checking the locks, checking my kids. They'd been so brave, so quiet, drawing pictures instead of playing outside, whispering instead of laughing. At 2 a.m., my phone lit up. Text from Jacob. Whatever happens tomorrow, you did the right thing. Then another. My mom would have been proud. I thought about his mom, dying of cancer, spending her last weeks fighting insurance fraud instead of saying goodbye. All because someone coded a biopsy as extensive tissue removal. Tomorrow the grand jury would decide. Either I was a hero whistleblower who deserved protection, or I was a criminal who destroyed a hospital's reputation with lies. Either my kids would get their life back, or I'd lose them forever. I took half an anxiety pill, saved the other half for morning. Tomorrow everything would be decided. I walked into the grand jury room at 9 a.m. sharp. Maverick sat across from me with 3 lawyers. His hands were cuffed, orange jumpsuit instead of his white coat. He'd lost weight. His eyes had that hollow look gamblers get when the house finally wins. The prosecutor stood up. Miss Martinez, please tell the grand jury what you discovered. I opened my folder. 843 patients overbilled. 3.2 million stolen in 18 months. Objection, Maverick's lawyer said. Alleged. Not proven. The judge didn't even look up. Overruled. This is a grand jury, not a trial. The prosecutor played Jacob's recording. Maverick's voice filled the room. Bill the complex codes. Insurance companies expect it. They budget for it. His lawyer's face went white. Maverick stared at the table. Ms. Martinez, please show the grand jury what you found on Dr. Maverick's computer. I pulled out the printed spreadsheet. Revenue enhancement tracking. Every patient, every real procedure, every fake code, his personal notes in the margins. This one's good for extra $20,000. Insurance won't check this. Easy money. Mrs. Thompson sat in the front row. She held up her husband's suicide note. Can't leave my wife with $100,000 debt. Sorry. This is the only way. Her voice broke. He killed himself in our garage. I found him. Because of a bill for cancer treatment he never had. Janet took the stand next. She'd already flipped, traded testimony for reduced sentence. He promised me 10% of increases, she said. I have receipts. She showed bank statements. Her LLC received $320,000. Deposits matching exactly with overbilled amounts. Dr. Maverick said insurance companies were the real thieves, said we were evening the score. Maverick stood up. His lawyers tried to pull him down. Those patients got excellent care, he shouted. Insurance companies steal billions. We saved lives. The judge leaned forward. So you became a thief too? I had debts. You don't understand the pressure. These people, he pointed at me. She doesn't understand what it's like. 800,000 to the wrong people, they would have killed me. So you killed patients instead. Mrs. Thompson stood up. My husband is dead. He had pneumonia. Treatable pneumonia, not terminal cancer like you claimed. Security moved toward her. She sat down shaking. The prosecutor showed more evidence. Backdated surgical notes, forged signatures. Janet's recording of the revenue meeting where they planned to frame me. If questions come up, we have evidence of her unauthorized access. HIPAA violations, disgruntled employee. Margaret testified next. Full immunity for full cooperation. I was following orders, she said, Doctor. Maverick and Janet controlled everything. I have 3 years of emails. She produced hundreds of emails. Instructions to alter records, threats against whistleblowers. Plans to destroy evidence before Medicare audits. One email from Maverick to Janet. If anyone asks questions, ruin them. Like we did with Patricia's friend. Patricia's friend, the nurse who lost her license for made-up HIPAA violations. The grand jury deliberated for 47 minutes. When they came back, the foreman stood. We find probable cause for indictment on all counts. Healthcare fraud, racketeering, conspiracy, obstruction of justice, witness intimidation. Maverick collapsed in his chair. His lawyers whispered frantically. The judge turned to me. Ms. Martinez, you're under federal protection until trial. The hospital's countersuit is dismissed with prejudice. I walked out into sunshine. First time I'd been outside without fear in weeks. My kids were waiting with my sister. They ran to me. Mom, can we go home now? Yeah, baby, we can go home, but home would never be the same, neither would I. The trial lasted 6 weeks. 6 weeks of sitting in federal court watching Maverick's lawyers try to paint me as a disgruntled employee. A drug addict. A woman scorned. They threw everything at the wall, hoping something would stick. Nothing did. The jury came back after 2 days. Guilty on all 43 counts of healthcare fraud. Guilty on racketeering. Guilty on conspiracy. Guilty on obstruction. Guilty on witness intimidation. Maverick stood there as they read each verdict. His face went from red to white to gray. When they got to count 43, he collapsed. Had to be carried out on a stretcher. The judge didn't even pretend to have sympathy. 15 years federal prison. No parole. 15 years. He'd be 70 when he got out. If he survived. Federal prison doesn't treat people who steal from Medicare kindly. Janet got 7 years. She cried through her whole sentencing, kept saying she was just following orders, just trying to make a living. The judge reminded her that she'd stolen $320,000. That wasn't survival. That was greed. I'll testify, she begged. Against everyone. I have names. Other hospitals doing the same thing. The prosecutor took notes. There'd be more trials, more investigations. The cancer had spread through the whole healthcare system. Karen and Patricia lost their nursing licenses. No jail time. They cooperated fully once they realized their pensions were gone anyway. 20 years of keeping quiet, and they had nothing to show for it. Dr. Harrison got indicted separately, lost his medical license immediately. His trial was set for next year. His lawyers kept filing delays. Didn't matter. He'd never practice medicine again. The hospital got hit with a $12 million fine. Federal monitoring for 5 years. Every billing code reviewed. Every procedure verified. They'd never pull this again. Insurance companies were forced to reverse all fraudulent charges. $3.2 million in 18 months. But with interest and penalties, patients got back $5 million total. Mrs. Chen got $68,000. Enough to save her house and pay for her mother's care. Mrs. Rodriguez got $130,000. She and her husband bought a small condo. No more basement living. Mr. Thompson's widow got $500,000. She donated half to suicide prevention. So no one else has to find their husband in the garage. I got $480,000. 15% of recovered funds under the False Claims Act. After taxes, about $300,000. Enough to pay off my mortgage. Enough to know my kids would be okay. Valley Medical called the day after the verdict. We need someone to head our new compliance department, someone who understands fraud from the inside. How much? Double your regional medical salary, full benefits, and complete autonomy to investigate anything suspicious. Double. I'd been making $65,000 at regional. This was $130,000, plus bonuses for fraud prevention. When do I start? Monday if you can? I could. That weekend, I took my kids to Chuck E. Cheese. First time in months we'd gone anywhere fun. My daughter won a stuffed unicorn. My son beat me at air hockey 3 times. Mom, he said over pizza, are we safe now? Yeah, baby, we're safe. And the bad people are in jail? Most of them. What about the other bad people? The ones at other hospitals? I thought about Janet's offer to testify, about the FBI expanding their investigation, about the dozens of nurses who'd started calling me, asking for advice about suspicious billing at their hospitals. We'll stop them too. He nodded. Good. Someone has to. Monday morning, I walked into Valley Medical. New badge, new title. Director of Patient Billing Compliance. Dr. Alvin had taken over Regional Medical's department. He texted me that morning. Cleaning house. Found 3 more doctors involved, FBI taking them today. Patricia texted too. Starting over. Walmart pharmacy tech, 17 an hour. But honest work. Even Margaret reached out. I'm sorry. For everything. I was scared. That's not an excuse, just the truth. I didn't respond. Some bridges were meant to stay burned. My new office had a window, pictures of my kids on the desk, a small sign that said patient advocate. My first day at Valley Medical changed everything. I walked through the front doors at 7:30 in the morning. The entire billing department stood there, applauding like I was some kind of hero. My face burned. I just wanted to disappear into my office. Please, I just want to help patients. But they kept clapping, some crying. An older woman grabbed my hand. My sister almost lost her house to fraud at Regional. Thank you. I escaped to my office, sat at my new desk. Director of Patient Billing Compliance. The nameplate felt wrong. Too heavy. Too important for someone who'd just been trying to help Mrs. Chen 8 weeks ago. My phone buzzed. Text from Dr. Alvin. Implemented your protocol. Already caught 2 attempts at upcoding. Stopped them cold. He sent a photo. A plaque on the wall of Regional Medical's billing department. The Angelica Protocol. Patient Billing Protection System. My name. On a wall. In the hospital that tried to destroy me. This feels wrong, I texted back. Why? You saved lives. I just did my job. Your job was to follow orders. You chose patients instead. That afternoon, Mrs. Chen came to my office. Not crying this time, smiling. She brought her mother with her, tiny woman, maybe 90 pounds. Dementia had stolen most of her words, but she grabbed my face with both hands. Good. Good girl. Mrs. Chen's eyes filled. We got $68,000 back, kept the house. Mom doesn't have to move to state care. I'm glad. Glad? You saved our family. After she left, I stared at the refund paperwork. $68,000 to the Chens, $130,000 to the Rodriguez family, dozens more getting checks every day. But Mr. Thompson was still dead. 7 others too. Their refunds went to grieving families who'd rather have their loved ones back. Mrs. Thompson called that afternoon. The money came through. $500,000. That's good. No, it's not. Her voice was flat. I donated half to suicide prevention, the National Crisis Line. Maybe it'll save someone else's husband. Mrs. Thompson. He left me a voicemail before he did it. Said he was sorry for being such a burden. A burden. 43 years of marriage, and he thought needing medical care made him a burden. She hung up. My son texted from school. Kids keep asking if you're famous. What do you tell them? That you're famous for doing your job? Good answer. One kid said his mom thinks you're a troublemaker. Some people think that. I told him his mom was wrong. Thank you, baby. Mom? Yeah? I want to be a nurse. Like you. My throat closed up. After everything he'd seen, the arrest, the fear, the nights I couldn't stop crying, he still wanted to be like me. Nurses help people, I texted back. I know, that's why. That evening, my daughter crawled into my lap while I reviewed billing records. Mom, are you a hero? No, baby. I just did what any nurse should do. But other nurses didn't. She had a point. Patricia knew for years. Karen, too. Dozens of nurses who saw the fraud and stayed quiet. Sometimes doing the right thing is hard. Was it hard for you? I thought about the nights without sleep. The termination. The threats. CPS at my door. Almost losing my kids. Yeah, really hard. But you did it anyway. Yeah. That makes you a hero. I kissed her head. If you say so. She fell asleep in my lap while I worked. I reviewed 17 billing discrepancies, caught 3 potential frauds, saved 4 families from financial ruin. Tomorrow I'd catch more. The day after that, even more. Maverick was in federal prison. Janet too. The system that enabled them was being dismantled piece by piece. But somewhere in some other hospital, another Maverick was inflating bills. Another Janet was creating shell companies. Another Margaret was covering it up. And maybe, hopefully, another nurse was noticing, speaking up, fighting back. The work wasn't done. Would never be done. But tonight, with my daughter sleeping in my lap and my son safe in his room, I'd won. We'd won. 6 months later, I sat in front of Congress. The hearing room was packed, cameras everywhere. The healthcare fraud subcommittee wanted answers about how $3.2 million disappeared into fraudulent billing. Ms. Martinez, the chairman said, tell us what you discovered. I leaned into the microphone. Patients trust us with their lives. We betrayed that trust for money. Simple, direct, the truth. In federal prison, Maverick watched on the rec room TV. The other inmates knew his story. Everyone did. You're the one who bankrupted cancer patients, someone said behind him. 2 days later, he was in the infirmary with broken ribs. Again. He'd been beaten monthly since arriving, finally requested protective custody, sitting alone in a cell 23 hours a day. Janet taught bookkeeping to other inmates in minimum security. Still insisted she was just following orders, just doing her job. The other inmates didn't care. They had sick mothers, diabetic kids. They knew what she'd done. My new role took me to hospitals across the country, training compliance departments, teaching them to spot fraud before it destroyed families. The signs are always there, I'd tell them. You just have to look. My kids had adjusted. My daughter wrote an essay for school. My hero, the nurse who said no. Her teacher sent it to me. I cried in my office, but the nightmares didn't stop. That night in Maverick's office, the security guard's flashlight, my kids in the car. I'd wake up gasping, checking the locks. PTSD from institutional betrayal is real, my therapist said. You trusted that hospital. They tried to destroy you. Mrs. Rodriguez started a support group for medical debt victims. They met monthly in Regional Medical's old conference room. The hospital gave them the space for free. Least they could do, she said. Jacob became Chief Information Security Officer at Regional. No one can alter billing records without 3 approvals now, and everything leaves a trail. He'd built a system that couldn't be corrupted, named it after his mother. On a cold Tuesday morning, I drove to the cemetery, stood at my father's grave with fresh flowers, his favorites, yellow roses. Dad, I know you died because someone didn't do their job. The nurse who missed your sepsis, who didn't check your vitals, who looked away. I set the flowers down, pulled out my new hospital badge. I almost became that person. The one who looks away, who stays quiet, who lets people die for comfort. The badge read, Angelica Martinez, RN, Director of Patient Advocacy. But I remembered you. How you died alone because someone didn't care enough to notice, and I couldn't let that happen to anyone else. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. My heart still jumped every time. Some wounds don't heal, but it was a patient. You saved my family. Thank you. I'd gotten dozens of these texts. Each one made it worth it. That night, I went through old photos on my laptop, deleted most from Regional Medical. The Christmas parties, the award ceremonies, all lies. But I kept one. Me with 12 patients whose bills I'd corrected before everything exploded. They were smiling, alive, not destroyed by debt. The doorbell rang. My kids ran to answer it. Mrs. Chen stood there with homemade dumplings. For the hero nurse, she said. I'm not a hero. You are to us. We ate dinner together. Her mother, lost in dementia, kept patting my hand. Good girl. Good. After they left, my son asked, Mom, was it worth it? Everything you went through? I thought about Maverick in solitary, Janet in prison, my $480,000 settlement, my new job, the nightmares that wouldn't stop. Then I thought about Mr. Thompson, his suicide note, his widow's tears. Ask me in 10 years, I said. Why 10 years? Because that's how long it'll take to know if anything really changed. He nodded. Old soul in a 12-year-old body. That night, no nightmares. Just sleep. Deep and dreamless. My phone sat charging on the nightstand. Tomorrow it would ring with new cases, new fraud, new families about to be destroyed. But tonight, just quiet. People say no good deed goes unpunished. They're right, but some punishments are worth taking. Some fights are worth having, even if they cost everything.